They're not sure where the president is going to be for the bulk of the day. There's no schedule to where he's going to be. I'm wondering if perhaps he's not meeting with individuals to find out that what to do about Operation Fast and Furious once the August 2nd deadline comes and goes and we actually do have an agreement, because the failed federal anti-gun running program known as Fast and Furious got so out of control in November 2009 it appeared the U.S. government was single-handedly arming for war. Right. The Sinaloa Cartel documents are showing. Where are we at now? Because I know over the course of the past few days I've been seeing just a barrage of stories coming out as this gains momentum while the mainstream media still continues to ignore it, waiting for the debt debate to pass. Right, exactly. Well, we had a hearing this week, which, like you always say, John, can of worms everywhere. Yeah. There's so much information that came out. They had interviewed former special agent in charge from ATF, William Newell, who admitted that he was in contact with someone by the name of Kevin O'Reilly, who is a White House national security staffer, as early as September 2010. And he also admitted that DHS, IRS, DEA, ATF, and ICE, and the Obama Justice Department were all heavily involved and full partners in coming up with the concept and execution of Operation Fast and Furious. Now, what the Democrats on the Oversight Committee have been trying to sell, and what agents, and I want to start out by saying the majority of agents who have testified have been great. They've been totally open and forthcoming with information that's been very helpful. However, in the hearing this week, there were two agents that were defending this program. In fact, Mr. Newell refused to admit that Operation Fast and Furious was a bad idea. When he was asked whether he would do it again, he didn't say no. He said, well, I'd have to assess the risk. So he's not admitting that this was, a failed operation, that this was something that was an extremely bad idea. And what was disturbing is he tried to blame this on low-level agents working in the Phoenix field office, yet later in his testimony he admitted that this was developed by multiple agencies in Washington, D.C., and they're trying to make it seem like this was like a rogue operation coming out of one office, covering it up, and it clearly was a product of Washington, D.C. Now, I pulled a clip from Barack Obama in April 2009. And this clip has been a little out there just because of, the timing of things. But now that we know the White House was involved, it makes more sense. In April 2009, Barack Obama was in Mexico City doing a joint press conference with Mexican President Felipe Calderón. During that speech, he talked about the need to use gun tracing and ballistics tracing when it comes to solving crimes. And he asked Eric Holder specifically to do a complete review of current gun enforcements in April 2009, yet Eric Holder and President Obama deny that they authorized or knew anything specific about Operation Fast and Furious until 2011, when Eric Holder was supposed to be doing a complete review of current policies. I mean, it just seems a little too coincidental that the president was talking about, his quote is, I think we can build some strong consensus. I'll give you one example, and that is the issue of gun tracing, the tracing of bullets and ballistics and gun information that has been used in major crimes. So it just seems a little too close in the timing. And in this speech that he gave in Mexico, he mentions DHS, DOJ, ATF, everybody involved to work on coming up with ways they can stop the flow of guns to Mexico, right? Well, what did we hear in testimony this week from an ATF agent working with someone from the White House? He said that the same agencies were heavily involved in coming up with this operation, DHS, IRS, DEA, ATF, ICE. So the agencies are matching up, the timing is matching up. So after the debate on the debt ceiling is over, I think that we're going to hopefully be able to focus even more on this, because this is turning into a bigger issue than I think the White House ever wanted us to know about. 751-1041 is the phone number. More with Town Hall Katie Pavlich coming up next. If you have any questions, and I have some questions for Katie in regards to the latest information about Operation Fast and Furious, give us a call right now. 751-1041 is the phone number. You're listening to the John Justice Show. 82 degrees outside. You're on The Truth, Tucson's News Talk FM. Welcome Welcome back to the John Justice Show. 751-1041 is the phone number. Katie Pavlich joins us, townhall.com in Washington, D.C. I've probably asked you this before, Katie, but as we get more information about what's going on with this and, the comments from Barack Obama back from 2009, you can only get so much where you go, come on, really? It's getting a little bit too obvious. But the question I have is, do we know yet? Have we traced this whole operation back to a single entity or person? I mean, who started this whole ball rolling in the first place?
Well, we don't know, the specific individual, but we did hear that from this agent. He said that this isn't some idea that's just developed by one person. This has to, he has specifically said ideas like this have to go through many levels of authorization before they're allowed to be implemented, which proves that this is not something that just happened in one Phoenix office. This is obviously coming out of Washington, D.C., and when you have so many different agencies involved, there's 5 different agencies here, so there's multiple individuals. But what's concerning to me about this week is the ATF agents who testified also said that when they go into ATF training, they're taught, and it's drilled into their heads, that you don't lose a single weapon. Not one. And if you do, you're dismissed from your job. You're fired immediately. And the fact that there's been 2,000 of these guns literally put into the hands of dangerous cartels, I mean, to the point of they sent so many guns down there that they could have armed a Marine regiment. No one has lost their job yet. And I talked to Daryl Issa yesterday, and he said, unfortunately, it's going to be really difficult to get anyone fired over this, which I think is really unfortunate, because if you have agents who aren't allowed to get one gun out of their site, yet you have 2,000 guns going deliberately into the hands of cartels, it seems like someone should be held accountable for it.
And it's the facet to this that we talked about a bit last week, is why was this, in terms of why was this put in place? Was this put in place to actually do what they were trying to do and trace where these guns were going, or was this more a means to go and push for more gun control? And there's, and you do have two pretty good schools of thought. I guess for me though, I still sit back and I go, God, it seems like such a bad idea. It had to start somewhere. You'd like to believe that somebody inside of ATF would be smart enough to know that this wasn't going to be the best idea. In trying to look at it with some common sense approach, I keep leaning back towards, the more logical answer seems to be they did do it on purpose to try to, knowing it was going to be a bad thing to do, that they could use it to their advantage politically speaking down the road.
Right. Well, I always say, what progressives are doing by looking at the opposite of what they're saying they're doing. So in June 2009, Eric Holder was saying we're putting additional DEA and ATF resources on the border, specifically in Arizona, to combat trafficking to Mexico. Yet we now know that in fall 2009, the Obama administration, through Operation Fast and Furious, was instead allowing guns to be trafficked to Mexico. The complete opposite of what they said they were going to do. Now, what we also heard this week is that Mexican ATF agents who were working in Mexico were left completely in the dark on this. They kept finding guns linked back to the Phoenix ATF office, called up there and said, what's going on? We keep finding these guns that are that are traced back to you guys. Are you losing track of them? What's going on? And they were told by the Phoenix field office and by Washington, D.C. that, that's under investigation. We're looking into it. Don't worry about it. So these agents who are working and operating in Mexico, who are directly impacted by the cartels, they're in it every single day down there, weren't even aware that they were arming cartels in the first place. Oh. So, and not to mention, we also heard from this Newell guy who was worthless, but at the same time, the definition of, I guess, a useful idiot, because he gave us a lot of information. He said that they never told the Mexican government about this, yet they expected the Mexican government to prosecute cartel members once they got the big fish. And then he got laughed at by the Oversight Committee, because he said that they didn't inform the Mexican government. They weren't going to extradite these cartel big fish that they were trying to arrest and locate. They weren't going to extradite them to the United States for prosecution, yet they expected Mexican officials to prosecute them.
Wow.
That's what these are his words. I mean, he said all of this. So it doesn't make any sense. And like I always say every week when we talk about this is just the beginning.
Yep.
This is just the beginning.
Well,
so I'm sure we'll have more information next week.
Yeah, and hopefully by next week this time we'll be done with this whole debt debate, so we can look forward to that, and we'll be seeing this in more of the mainstream news. Go on by townhall.com. The latest article from Katie Pavlich is up right now about this, and keep tabs on the story through Katie at townhall.com. Thank you as always, Katie. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.